Hi friends, today we are going to learn another one part of the changes and reaction. In the last video we learned the chemical change that can be represented with the help of symbol and chemical formula, that is called the chemical reaction, and there are two parts, that are reactant and product. In the last video we learned up to this. Now we are going to learn what are the another types of changes depending on the other some properties. Like, let us consider, if we consider the stability of the change, there are two types of changes. The first one kind of change, like the melting of ice, that is not permanent. That is not permanent. But when we burn a substance, then the new substance will be formed. That is a permanent. So either it is permanently changes or temporarily. Depending on this stability, the changes are two types. So on, that is number B. In the first video we learn A on the nature, on stability. On stability, there are two types of changes. Number one, temporary change, and number two, permanent change. One example of temporary change, generally all physical changes are temporary changes and all chemical changes are permanent changes. All physical changes are in general the temporary changes. One example of it, this is be freezing. This is temporary change. One example of the chemical change is the burning of coal, permanent change. Burning of coal, that is a permanent change. Similarly, another one type of change is also here, depending on the reversibility property. Either we can get back the initial substance or not. Depending on this, the chemical changes are two types. The first one, if we get back the initial substance, this is called the reversible change, and the second one is the irreversible change, where we cannot get back the initial substance when the cause of the change is withdrawn. So depending on reversibility nature, depending on the reversibility nature of changes are mainly two types. Number one, the reversible change. In general, all physical changes are reversible changes. And number two, irreversible change. Reversible change, one example, most of the physical changes are reversible in nature. Most of the physical changes, sublimation is a reversible change, whereas irreversible change, any chemical changes are irreversible changes in general. Any one example of the chemical change is the neutralization reaction or digestion of food, burning of paper, irreversible change, where the initial substance cannot be obtained by removing the cause of it. Another one type of change is also here, that is depending on the evolution of heat, either heat energy is released or not. If the heat energy is released, that is called exothermic change. Exo means evolve, release. Endothermic change, where the heat energy is absorbed. End of therm, end means absorb, the finish, heat energy is absorbed. End of therm, endothermic change. So depending on the evolution of heat, either the heat energy is released or not. Depending on this, the change may be of two types. The first one is the exothermic change, where the exo means evolution of it, heat energy is released, and second one is the endothermic change. Endothermic, that means end of therm, so finish, heat energy is finished, absorbed. exothermic change, one example of exothermic change where energy is released, exothermic change. One example, very simple, the digestion of food, energy is released. The combustion of substance, combustion, very simple example, combustion, exothermic change. But when glucon D or glucose D dissolves into the water, then what happens? Then we see that the moisture present in the air condenses outside the glass. Moisture condenses outside the glass. So this is one endothermic physical change. Basically endothermic change, dissolution of glucon D. That is the example of the endothermic change, dissolution of glucose D. Or when sugar or the any first order saccharide, polysaccharide, monosaccharide, bisaccharide, etc. are here, dissolves in the water. Dissolution of glucose D or glucon D into water. So this one is the example of endothermic change. Another one type of change is also here, number E, depending on the speed of the change. Either the change occurs very fast or not, depending on this, on speed, rapidity, on speed or rapidity. How fast the change takes place, depending on this, the changes are two types, the slow change and the fast change. The fast change and slow change. Fast change and slow change. One example of the fast change is combustion. And one example of slow change is digestion of food. This is very slow change. Another one type of change is also here, depending on the nature of the desiredness of it, the desirable change and the undesirable change, depending on our desiredness. Either we are will to see this or not. That means number one, the desirable change, and number two, the undesirable change. One example of desirable change is blink of eye, desirable change. We can produce sound, we can clap this, that means clapping, walking, riding or writing, etc. are the desirable change, depending on our will. But the beating of heart, we cannot control this, that is undesirable change. So desirable change, one example of it, let this is be walking. This is one desirable change. Undesirable change, beating of heart, normal heartbeat, we cannot control this. Blood circulation, we cannot control this. We cannot control our blood circulation. So beating of heart. These are the different types of changes: stability, reversibility, evolution of it, the rapidity, the desiredness. These are the different types of changes are here. Also another one kind of changes are here that we learn from our surroundings. Either it is natural change or the artificial change. Human being also responsible for this. Natural change means like the thunderstorm, we cannot control this. This is out of our control. the flood, we cannot control this, but we make some precautions. Artificial change means like the burning, deforestation. These are artificial changes. Also, in all kind of changes, there are two options again. Temporary change, it may be physical, chemical. Permanent change may be physical, chemical. Reversible may be physical, chemical. Irreversible change, also it may be physical change and chemical change. The exothermic change, there are two options: exothermic physical change, exothermic chemical change, endothermic change, endothermic physical change, endothermic chemical change. All these are here. In the next video, we learn the other, that each two types of changes with their suitable example, and then we go to the reaction, chemical reaction, that we learn in the first video, and what are the different types of chemical reactions are here and how can you define them. Today up to this.